Welcome to Business Analysis Techniques Week 4, and this is your online instructor, Diana Block. And this week we're going to look at regression analysis. So we're going to actually use one of the tools that we had you install and test out in the Week 1 assignment. And we said in that video that we'll come back later to talk about what that actually means. So we're going to use that regression analysis tool. And this is a copy of the assignment that we're going to work on this week, so we'll talk through that. But regression analysis is a statistical process that we use to estimate the relationship among variables. So we can use this for modeling when we have several variables and we're trying to figure out how they relate to each other. So in this problem, this data that we've got here, we're talking about expenses and admissions. So we're looking at different data points. When we had 77,000 admissions to the hospital, expenses were 57 million. When we had 160,000 admissions, expenses were 127 million. And so we've collected all of this data from different points of what the admissions were and then what the corresponding expenses were. So what we want to find out is, how do these two items relate to each other? Is there a formula we can come up with so that if we were to come up with some random number of admissions, like 300,000 admissions, can we then project what the expenses will be based on the relationships between the data that we already have? That's what we're attempting to do with regression analysis. We want to look at what are the relationships between these variables, and that way we can model other situations based on the information that we already have. So we're going to use Excel to calculate all of this for us. It would be much too long and complicated for us to do all this by hand. And so Excel has some great tools that will allow us to do this regression analysis and see how these items of these variables relate to each other. And so if you remember using this tool in Week 1, you're going to go to the Data tab, and you're going to go to Data Analysis. And then you're going to select regression. You may have to scroll down to get to regression. It's not necessarily there. I've been moving mine around a bit. But select regression. Excuse me. And then, and see, I've already got it, part of it done. Let me try to get it cleared out. Well, I'll just show it to you, even though I already did it. So you select regression. Okay. And it's going to ask for the Y input range. These items are going to be empty when you first open it. So the Y input range, you're going to go to your data for the first problem and enter the Y data right in that space. Then you'll enter your X data that's given to you. And you can click OK. Excel is then going to give you a sheet of data that looks like this. And let me grab something else. Okay, so I just switched over to the example in the textbook instead of your actual homework assignment, so I can show you some things in the textbook. So in the textbook, they show you the same thing I just showed you, how to walk through and set up your regression, put in your X information, put in your Y information. Then on the second problem, keep in mind there's going to be two rows, or two columns rather, of X information. So you'll just put that whole entire X section in. So because you can use multiple variables. So anyway, we're going to end up with some regression data that looks like this. Now, in your textbook, I want you to see these items. These boxes talk about SSR, SSE, SST. It's going to explain to you what each of those is and what they mean, and how we can use that information to create the model so that we can predict or forecast our expenses based on admissions. So here's the homework assignment now. Now I'm switching over to look at the homework assignment. So we have already entered our X and Y data into the regression analysis tool in Excel, and we've gotten the regression report. It's going to pop up a new report on a new page of your, a new tab of your Excel. So the first thing it asks you for after you do that is to find an equation that relates to the total expense, that relates total expenses, which is Y, to the number of admissions. And so you're going to actually write a formula in here. You're going to write a formula. That's your answer to this. A lot of people miss this because they type something else. I'm not sure what, but they type something else. But you're going to write an actual formula to calculate y based on the data you've got. You're going to say y equals, and you're going to actually pull the information for the intercept. In your Excel data, your regression data, you're going to have a field that says intercept, and it's going to give you the y-intercept for this problem based on the data that it just calculated. Where's my... Oh, here it is. No, that's not it. Here it is. It's going to give you the y-intercept. So I'm just throwing a number out there, but if you looked at the data, the regression data, and under the coefficient, it has the intercept, and say that intercept was 2.27. And then you would have the x variable also under intercept. And you would say plus the x variable times x. And so if the x variable was 0.9 x. This is not the formula, this is not the answer, but your formula should have a format like this. You're going to go into your data and take the intercept, that's the y-intercept, and you're going to get the x variable, and you're going to plug those into the formula. So here it is written in words. Your answer is going to be y equals the intercept from your data plus the x variable times x. So you're going to actually write the actual formula based on the data that you get, that the regression tool gives you, and you're going to pull out of that the intercept and the x variable, and you're going to create a formula like this. That's the answer that I'm looking for part A. Okay, so on part B, where it says predict the total expenses of the hospital with 80,000 admissions, then you're going to actually use the formula that you came up with in the prior part to see for 80,000 admissions. So your admissions is 80,000, that's your x, times whatever your x variable is, plus the y-intercept. So whatever your actual formula is for A, you're going to plug that in, assuming that X is 80,000 admissions. And so your formula is going to tell us Y. Remember, Y was expenses. So you're going to actually plug that information into your formula that you got from the previous part to give an actual answer of what expenses should be with 80,000 admissions. Then on part C, where it talks about the SST, SSE, SSR, and MSE, you're just going to pull that information out of your data. This example in the book is a shortened version, but the data that you get will have all of those items on there. And so all you have to do is pull them out of the data. Just pull them straight out of the data that you're given. And then you're going to find the coefficient of determination in part D. And again, that's going to be right in the data that you're given, but you'll have to review in your textbook and make sure you read the material to be able to find out which item is going to give you the coefficient of determination, because there's lots of data that you're going to get from that regression tool. So make sure that you review the textbook and see how to find that. And the same thing with E. It's asking if there is a find the significance of F and determine if our model is statistically significant. And so you will have to go into the data that Excel just gave you, find the significance of F value, and then based on your information in your textbook, determine whether or not this model is significant, that we can actually use this as a predictor of expenses based on admissions. So all of the information that you need is going to be in that data that Excel regression analysis tool spits out for you. You don't have to do any calculations except for here in part B. That's the only thing you have to calculate. Everything else you're going to actually pull out of the data that Excel gives you. So it's going to be important to make sure that you enter everything in the regression analysis tool correctly. Problem 2, the second problem rather, yeah, here it is basically the same thing. You're going to go through the same process. The only thing that's going to be different is that you're going to have two rows or two columns, I'm sorry, of X data. And so you're going to enter both columns of X data that you have. You're going to enter your Y data, and then you're going to enter your X data, and make sure you include both of those columns. And then you're going to go through and use the output that it gives you to go through similar steps. You're going to find the equation. You're going to estimate the sales price of a home in this problem. And then you're going to find the coefficient of determination, significance of F, and then you're going to find out if this, determine if this model is significant. So you're going to do the same basic process, just with an extra X variable. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me and ask any questions that you have. Also, I'm going to be on Blackboard IM during the posted office hours, or you can also email me at any time. If you email me, I do recommend that you include your copy of your spreadsheet, just so I can see what you have so far, or maybe I'll be able to tell where you may have gone wrong in it. And then I will also talk about how some of these concepts apply to everyday life in our discussion this week. So I look forward to talking with you, and I wish you a great week. Thanks.